sent to you, so we adopt that Exhibit A, but we can give it to the court if you need those names. And Mr. Williams have no contact with any of the co-defendants in this indictment, with the exception of Mr. Quantavious Greer, that is his biological brother, as well as Mr. Sergio Kitchens. He's a phenomenal artist. He goes performer known as Gunna, G-U-N-N-A. Mr. Williams and Mr. Kitchens are contractually obligated, and they frequently perform music together. Your Honor, any other conditions that this honorable court deems appropriate? I want to thank the court for all your time. Always, I want to thank Ms. Percival for everything she has done. I want to thank Mr. Williams for allowing me to stand with him. And I really never thought we would be here, but this is his decision. I want to thank the Honorable Keith Adams, who may want to speak, Your Honor, but I can never imagine a better lawyer than Keith Adams.
Mr. Adams, do you want to add anything to the record?
Your Honor, I don't know that there's really much to add. Mr. Steele has represented to the court, I think fully and thoroughly, the breadth of our knowledge of the case, Mr. Williams' background. I think the court has not just heard it from Mr. Steele, but has had the opportunity to sit here and hear some of the evidence and kind of get a feel. You've had a chance also to observe Mr. Williams and then get a feel for him, his background, and so forth. You know, the only thing I can say about Mr. Williams that hasn't been said is that he comes from an area. You might have heard throughout the course of the trial that there was an album, a concert tour. We came from nothing. And that is true. Mr. Williams came from, you know, I hate to use the word abject poverty, but that really is the case. Came from an area where there was a significant amount of crime, where, as you've heard, he's had tragedy in his life and has observed tragedy in his life, and he has gone through a good bit. He has been involved in a lot, but he has raised himself up. He has done the best he could and has done phenomenally well, and is, I think, an inspiration to a lot of people from that community who look to him and see the success that he has gained and have been fully supportive of him. But he finds himself here. He's in front of you. He is tendering this plea because he accepts responsibility. You have heard everything Mr. Steele has had to say. I can only ask that you follow what we have put before you. You also have, I believe, the paperwork that was given to you by the state, which kind of gives you some idea of what they were looking for as well in terms of conditions on Mr. Williams if we were to have reached some sort of agreement. And we ask that if you feel that there is anything within the state's proposal that might be appropriate in terms of sentence for Mr. Williams, that the court please feel free to do that. There is nothing that he puts himself before the court. And I think 2.5 years sitting, going through this process, challenging the process, but now standing before you and asking that you consider everything and sentence him appropriately in the way that we've requested. I'd simply ask you, I'd join Mr. Steele and Mr. Williams in asking you to do the same. And I thank you as well, as Mr. Steele did, for your patience with us and for bringing some order to the proceedings that candidly was needed. So that's all I have to say. I thank you again, and I ask you to consider everything that's been put before you.
All right, Mr. Williams, is there anything that you want to say?
Yes, ma'am. I take full responsibility for, my crimes or my charges. I want to say sorry to my family, my mom. My mom got 11 kids. I can't say all their names, my managers, my kids that's not here. Really everybody that got something to do with this situation, I want to say sorry for just having so much time investing into this, and I am a smart guy, I am a good guy, and I really got a good heart, I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just, nice or cool, you know, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height because it could end bad, and it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, you know, fall on you. And I know the choice is yours, it's up to you, and out of this, you know, of it, sorry. Through these last two, everybody involved on having to put y'all having to put this extra time in to be away from y'all to allow me to go home and be with my family and just do better as a person. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I am. I know the heights I've reached. I know the impact I got on people, period, in the community, you know, all people. I learned that late, like these past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late. And maybe it was because I was, you know, probably on drugs or anything, I don't know. But I have came to my senses and I understand what I mean to this world. But I am a good guy, you know, I don't mind doing stuff like, you know, like free shows, and I always did that. You know, I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars. You know, I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity. And I did like 2 or 3 shows that made like $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. Like, you know, I do things like I put millions of dollars back into my community for real. I really did. I did more than anybody ever did from my side, you know. But I understand, you know, rap lyrics. I understand how it could be twisted. I understand what it could do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you I'm 100% changing that. You know, it's just, I'm older, I'm grown now, you know, and it's just like, I'm smarter. It's more things to rap about. Like, I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too. And anyway,
I mean, it's past your neighborhood. It's worldwide, especially young people. And having come up from where you came up from and living in and around that, you know that gangs are damaging to our community. And it may be that a whole lot of rap music and the rap industry is, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a modern day version of kind of WWE wrestling that used to be on television, where people would just get up and posture and act like they hated each other. And it may be that that's a lot of what is going on in the music industry with rap. But whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do. Look at him, he's a millionaire. I can do that by being, you know, a gangster in the streets. And that's not true. What you're likely to have happen to you if you're a gangster in the streets is you get shot, you get killed, or you get thrown in prison. And those are, you know, by far the most likely outcomes. And, you know, You've been in here watching the trial, and you've seen the pictures of Mr. Ryan posing with a gun as big as he is at 15 years old and going out and shooting and killing another teenager. And that's what gangs do, and that's unfortunately a lot of what rap music does. And if you are a modern day John Lennon, you know, I mean, he might have rapped too in this day and age. I don't know, but I know you're talented, and even if you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go, and that there are ways out of poverty besides hooking up with the powerful guy at the end of the street selling drugs. And high horse on that. I could also go on. But I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem. All right? All right. So it is not lost on the court that the state, had they been able to come to agreement on certain special conditions, was willing to entirely dismiss the RICO count, was willing to entirely dismiss one of the gang counts, and was willing to entirely dismiss this, machine gun count. Was willing to give a sentence that permitted Mr. Williams to walk out of the door today Mr. Williams, if on the streets, would be a danger to society. I'm taking that into consideration and crafting my sentence. I would not be permitting Manolo to the one if you were not pleading guilty to at least one of them. But you are. And y'all admit a factual basis for the counts that you are pleading guilty to. I find there to be a factual basis for those counts. And for the remaining counts with which you are charged, I am going to impose a sentence. And I've taken a little bit of the suggested special conditions from the defense and a little bit of the special conditions suggested by the prosecution. The balance of 15 years to be probated and a $25,000 fine. On count 2, the sentence is 5 years to serve, commuted to time served. That's the minimum sentence that's permitted on that count. It is required to be run consecutively. I'm going to run it consecutive to count 1, but I am going to backload. Oh, I'm sorry, that is not commuted. That is 5 years to serve, and it's going to be run consecutively to count 1, backloaded, by which I mean after you serve your 15 years of probation, if you have been successful on that probation, and I sincerely hope that you are, then at the end of that 15 years, I will commute the entire rest of any service portion of your sentence to time served. So I'll get to the end of it and give you the total sentence, but I'm also going to impose a $15,000 fine with regard to that count. Count 57, 20 years to serve 5, commuted to time served, the balance of 15 years probated, concurrent with count 1. Count 58, 10 years to serve 5, commuted to time served, balance probated, concurrent with count 1. 59, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1. 60, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1. Count 61, 5 years to serve, that is required to be also a consecutive sentence, so that's going to be run consecutively to count 56 and backloaded. Count 62, 10 years to serve, also required to be served consecutively. That's going to be consecutive to count 61, also backloaded. So essentially, the total sentence is 40 years to serve the first 5 years in prison, but commuted to the time that you have already served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed then by the backloaded 20 years, which can be served in custody and will be served in custody if you are not your 15 years probation, that will be commuted to time served. You are to remain on reporting status for the first half of your probation, active reporting for the first 7.5 years of your probation, and that is pursuant to OCGA 17-10-1, subsection 2, A2A. And Mr. Steele and Mr. Adams, in order to keep him on reporting status, there needs to be good cause shown. We all concede that good cause is shown here?
Stipulate.
All right, I appreciate that. Special conditions of your probation.
What good cause? What do you mean?
Can I have a second, Your Honor?
Sure.
Let the judge. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. You had enough time to talk with your attorneys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, special conditions of your probation. After 48 hours from your release, you are to stay away from the metro Atlanta area, and that's defined by the U.S. Census Bureau. It may change, but you can look that up anytime to figure out what that is. For the first 10 years of your probation, subject.
Getting things right in West Hollywood?
Turn that motherfucker back on.
When you were negotiating. You can get here up to 24 hours prior to any such event, and you need to leave within 48 hours after any such event. In addition, during each year of your probation, I'm going to require that you come to the metro Atlanta area and make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year, each year of your probation, at a grade school, a middle school, a boys or girls club, anything like that, that type of group. And if you want to, that presentation can include a benefit concert, and these presentations may count towards your required community service hours, which I'm going to impose. That during each year of your probation, you perform 100 hours of community service. You are, and this is required by the fact that there's a gang conviction. You shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of any criminal street gang. Exception to that, if your brother is a member of any street gang, I hope you talk him into getting out of it. Quantavious Greer, and then also to him, that is going to include anybody who is named in this indictment, except as absolutely necessary to conduct the lawful business of your musical career, and to any extent that the state is not agreeing to the exception for Mr. Kitchens. In the event that that part is not enforceable because it is only a portion of a special condition, going to provide that that be severable from the rest of this, and I'll put some case cites in the Senate sheet for that. You are in no way to promote any criminal street gang or any criminal street gang activity, including on any social media platform. You are not to utilize any hand signs, terminology, or language that promotes any criminal street gang. You are not to participate in any criminal street gang activity. You are not to knowingly engage in any contact with any of the victims that are listed in this indictment or with any of their family members. And you may not have in your possession or with arm's reach any kind of a firearm because you're going to be a convicted felon. And that is, except I know that you have security and you need security. You can be within arm's reach of a firearm that is in the possession of either licensed law enforcement or licensed security personnel that are in your security detail or anybody that you're performing with. You are to submit to random drug screens and not use any drugs unless they are prescribed for you by a licensed physician. You are to execute a Fourth Amendment waiver that will permit the search of your person, residence, vehicles, and electronics for any firearms, any criminal street gang paraphernalia, or any illicit drugs. And as I mentioned, with regard to one of the first of your co-defendants from this trial, at least since I've been involved, to plead guilty, our Uniform Superior Court rules instruct and provide that it is absolutely proper for a judge to grant leniency justice are served, unquote. And I think that this plea is in the interest of the public and in the interest of effective administration of justice. Have been trying to ensure that to the extent I can, this trial also abides by that. It's been challenging at certain times. I find your plea to be freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered with an understanding of the consequences, and I accept it as such. I also need to inform you that your attorneys are going to represent you through either the last day of this term of court or 30 days from now, whichever is later, and any of the filings that were mentioned that need to be filed within that time, they would file on your behalf unless they are permitted to withdraw from representing you before that time. I am not going to impose the conditions suggested by your counsel about the benefit concerts and the donations to the sheriff's office, but I certainly strongly encourage you to do those things and to do and continue to do things that benefit your community and especially help young people to stay out of criminal trouble. And unless there is anything from counsel other than that.
I have one matter, Your Honor.
An official message from Medicare.
I usually
If you don't fucking get you true premium.
Or funeral or
To stay out of criminal trouble. Other than that.
one matter. Your Honor.
Okay, and does the state as well?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, Atlanta area or Cleveland Avenue area for funeral or the other items.
Right.
Can you also consider, God forbid, there's a serious medical condition of the person that
In
is
his immediate family,
yeah.
certainly we can add that. And I also meant to mention, because I know you do travel all over in order to pursue your career, that it's permissible for your probation to be transferred to out of state, and that has to be done through probation, but that is fine with the court. And you may also keep your, nobody's mentioned it, but keep your passport and travel out of state and internationally to the extent that you need to do that for business purposes as well. All right, Mr. Vadi.
Yes, just very briefly, and thank you. The district attorney just wanted me to urge the court, due to the fact that the Thomases have been negatively affected incredibly traumatically by what has been discussed by both parties here today, to make a brief statement as she believes that they fall within the exception or within the bounds of Marcy's law, if the court would allow. I understand the court made a ruling earlier as it relates to that, but she wants
All right. Thank you. And I appreciate, well, I cannot even begin to understand what they must, anybody must be going through when they lose a family member to violence or criminal violence. Mr. Williams himself has expressed his own sorrow to the family. I, again, am going to stand by my belief that the appropriate time to hear a victim impact statement from them is at the close of the trial that contains the thank you. Okay, court is adjourned. Good violations, but if there are any, you're coming back to see me.
Ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And you're
So it sounds like that's
Dog free. He
One mic.
coming home.
Thug free.
thug home,
Oh,
Hey,
Jay.
Thug
get,
free
He coming
niggas.
home. He
hey,
gonna tell
get
y'all
it off. Get it
niggas.
off. 10 minutes. Get it off.
Y'all
next
look,
time
y'all
when I
niggas
tell y'all to
motherfuckers.
listen to me, y'all better
Hey, Anya know
listen.
what she
Talk to
talking
him,
about.
Anya. Get it off.
How
Get it
did
off.
you
Talk
know? What the fuck? How did she know that?
Because a little birdie told me last night.
Nah, but you said he
That
was gonna.
part.
They were gonna offer him a deal. He just pleaded guilty. But like,
They did offer
I'm
him a
just happy
deal.
he came home. Like,
He
yeah,
get
I
I
what he
already
Thug
know
mean,
it's
is
if
all
they
right.
free,
offer him a
niggas.
deal,
Fuck
that means he
that.
still got to plead guilty.
And then the
All right,
best
real
part
quick, real
is,
quick. Let's recap the deal. Let's recap the deal. All right. 40 years of service, right? First 5 years in prison, community time served, which means the 2.5 months that he's already, 2.5 years he's already been locked down. Can somebody mute up? The 2.5 years that he's already been locked down, he comes home off of that. Followed by 15 years probation, backloaded to 20 years if successful, then that's commuted to time served. So,
Yeah.
fuck the
kind
judge
of
and the
sound about right?
Then the rest of that's
Right.
non-recording.
First half active reporting,
I
second
think
half
she,
non-active.
that
I
nigga
think
can't
she did right by banning his ass from Atlanta.
ten
So
10 years
special
years,
straight.
nigga.
conditions,
10 years is
48
crazy.
hours. He has to stay away from Metro Atlanta for the first 10 years. Exceptions, any wedding, graduation for college or immediate family. I was taking notes, so if I'm wrong,
Nah,
I'm
you
wrong.
good.
Get up
I'm right there
to,
with you.
let's see, yeah, get up to, he has to give notice up to 24, but leave after 48. Each year, he has to make an anti-gang and anti-gun presentation 4 times a year of each year of his probation. It can include a benefit concert. And each year, he has to perform 100 hours of community service, but that can count towards it. He can't have knowingly contact with any member of a street gang. Exception is his brother Greer and Gunna, as long as he's contractually obligated, except as necessary to conduct business of his musical career. If they can't do it, they'll sever that part and do some other shit, it looks like. No criminal street gang activity, no hand signs, no promotion, no contact with victims or their families. He can't have any firearms, but he can be within arm's reach of a licensed deputy or a security detail on his team.
Hey, with that security, man, they got to make sure they check that shit legitimately because they're gonna check him for sure.
She gave him the play, licensed deputy
He better get the
or
police.
licensed security
Exactly.
on his team, on his detail. So it has to be on his detail, has to be licensed. So not
You
homie in the
know they
back,
gonna run up on him and check his
has
security.
to be on his detail, has to be licensed. Pay that $300,000-$400,000 a year, and you know what I mean. Just pay that tab
Gotta
now. Don't even question it. Don't even question it. Let's go, y'all. No room for the week. Talk to me. Let's
Nigga,
go.
I'm
y'all
that
gonna
That
lie,
bad
y'all
moment.
backload.
the judge gave him love.